Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. It's time for the C3 stream. Hello, good evening, greetings, welcome to the C3 stream. Happy Tuesday everybody, good to be with you tonight. Thank you for all your patience. It's been too long. This is, so last week I was on vacation. Had a fabulous time. Thank you for asking, Joe. I did indeed. I had some time enjoying my little girls. We went to, our family's got a cabin up north that my parents purchased. It's their lifelong dream kind of thing. And so they have a little place, a little cabin on a lake. So we got to go see it for the first time up north and enjoy. It was great, fabulous, hot, no AC. It was like 85 and sticky, but we turned every fan on we could in the entire place. It was great. It was absolutely fabulous. We went, there's a state park like 2 minutes away that we went and we played in the water every day at. And yeah, so it was absolutely wonderful. He is indeed back. Hey-oh. So I'm back. Thank you. The week before that, I had another church conflict. I had to do another thing for church. So I had to sit down and actually had to think, where did we leave off and what did we do last? Because yeah, it's been like 3 weeks. I mean, the last 2 weeks I was gone, so it's been 3 since we've all hung out. You guys remember where we were? Anyone remember what happened last time? Anyone know? I had to look it up. I couldn't remember. It, but once I found it, then I remembered. Then I could do it. And tonight I have to give gratitude. I am drinking out of a new fancy cool mug. Look at this thing. It's called an Ember. You guys ever heard of this? Anyone ever heard of this thing? An Ember mug? So this is a gracious and kind gift from my good friend Dan Nelson and Melissa. Thank you, Dan. You guys rock. Dan has one of these, and his sister. I have to thank his sister as well. Thank you to Dan's sister, because she was gifted with some of these, and they graciously passed it along to me. They know I love good beverages. This thing, check it out. I can control the temperature of my beverage with my phone. Look at this. It's currently 137 degrees. Perfect tea temperature. I'm drinking green tea, and it tells me exactly how hot it is. And I can raise and lower the temperature. How cool is that? I didn't even know this thing existed till Dan was telling me about it. Perfect temperature. So, super cool. I know. Isn't that awesome? Never seen that before. So kudos and a thank you goes out to Dan Nelson. We can nerd out. He's a big techie guy. So I'm sipping my green tea at the perfect green tea temperature of 137 degrees. I'm pretty excited about it. All right. So let's pick up where we left off. And we left off in chapter 9 of Luke. So we're in Luke, still in Luke. Let's be honest. We're going to be in Luke for ages. Come on. It's all Saul hanging out, right? So we're just putzing along in Luke. I know, isn't technology cool, Katie? I think it's super cool. I'd never heard of this thing before, but it's an Ember. It's very cool. Yeah, Joe wants one. It's pretty neat. It's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I'll give you a review. Maybe I'll start a review channel. I'll be one of those guys who also does tea and coffee reviews. So we left off in chapter 9, and we're still in like a good ways into 9. All right, so we're not at the beginning of 9. Just a reminder for you, too, the reason we're doing Luke is because Luke, if you zoom all the way back over a year, we started doing a narrative walk through the Bible, and Luke makes sense in a narrative walkthrough, treating the Bible like a big story, because Luke flows directly into the book of Acts, and the book of Acts is kind of part 2. The book of Luke is part 1. Luke focuses on... Joe's letting everybody know that Amazon can deliver an Ember before the lesson is over. So there you go. We're raising Ember stock prices right now. I feel like this is not a sponsored product, but everybody wants one now, huh? Isn't that neat? I think it's so cool. It is. It's like I've been sipping on the same cup for 20 minutes, It is exactly the same temperature that it was 20 minutes ago. Like, it legitimately is. It's mind-blowing. I don't know. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, Luke 9, and we wrapped up. Here you guys go. Wrapped up with Transfiguration. That's where we left off. Can it really? Amazon could deliver it that quick, huh? Man, Amazon. Yep. This is what happened just before we finished, all right? So before we finished, we did a famous text. The Mount of Transfiguration, sometimes just called the Transfiguration. This is when Jesus goes up the mountain, goes up with the mountain, and he only takes a couple buddies with him, Peter, James, and John. These are the three that he usually takes with him when he retreats into an area of solitude. And while he's up there, a whole bunch of stuff happens. Namely, there's like this transformation experience with Jesus, and the other dudes, somehow they fall asleep. And they're like waking up, rubbing their eyes, looking at Jesus, like, what's happening? And he's like glowing and stuff. I mean, it's like this trippy experience, right? It's got vision kind of moment. And there's an exchange that happens, and the climax is when a voice speaks from a cloud. So this would be considered to be, this is a divine revelation moment. This is, oh shoot, what's the fancy term? Come on, theologian. What's it called when God reveals himself? I can't believe I just forgot that. There's a fancy theological term for it that's just escaping my mind at the moment. It doesn't matter. But it's going to bug me. This is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him, is what the voice from the cloud says. So the idea here is that this is the Father, this is the Spirit speaking. This is the triune God at work, communicating and speaking in such a way that Jesus, this voice speaks from the cloud. Jesus all of a sudden is there alone. And that's like, bum, 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 the big moment, right? And the suggestion is that when he's there alone, he stops glowing and all this sort of stuff, right? So this is usually considered to be Jesus revealed in his glory, okay? This is the full glory of Jesus manifesting itself at the top of the mountain. And at the climax, you get this identity of sonship, that is triune connection to the Father, Son, family, all this sort of stuff. And then you also get anointed, chosen one. We talked about this before. Dearly love Sonia. Okay. Anointed, chosen one. Messiah. Excuse me. Excuse me. Winding down. So this is kind of messianic too, right? Anointed one, chosen one, messianic and with also the command. Don't miss the command to listen to him. So you get an identity piece here, followed up with a direct command. Listen to him, which is particularly important given, if you guys remember the last couple of weeks, we've been tracking how word and deed is very important in Luke. Jesus's words, divine revelation. It is, Brian, but there's a specific fancy long theological term for it. It's not epiphany. There's a specific term. Gosh, and it's like, I know this sounds silly, guys, but it's like Theology 101 when you're in seminary. So it's not something that I'm supposed to forget. This is one of those moments where I'm supposed to sound impressive, but clearly I'm not. So I cannot think of what that word is. The moment I hear it, it's going to drive me nuts all night. It's going to drive me nuts. Boy, that's, well, whatever. Theologians are really good at making up really big, long, complicated terms that nobody else like knows or remembers except for us. Usually they're Latin based. My favorite is eschatological. That's my favorite. Eschatological. It means end times. That's all. It's a fancy way of saying the end. Anyways, there's some fancy word for what I'm thinking of, and I can't remember it. So, yeah, that's good. That's a good try, Joe. Yeah, that's good. That's funny. Yeah, it'll come to me sometime tonight. I'll sit up and wonder. Yeah, Google doesn't know either. That's exactly right. Brian checked. We both did, huh? It'll come to me. Where's one of our vicars when I need one? Golly. So this is where we finish, though. Transfiguration. Big moment, climax moment, and from this point on, most theologians, there's a definitive point in Luke coming up where it says Jesus sets his face toward Jerusalem, but from this point on, he's like trekking towards cross. I mean, this is like, boom, cross. Even in the backdrop, if you guys remember. Yeah. Ooh, come on, wake up, Andrew. My goodness, what's up? See, I sit with you guys and I'm all relaxed and calm, sipping tea at the end of the day. So here's the other thing, just as a reminder to you. He starts predicting his death. He starts talking about death, and then he immediately follows that up with the transfiguration. Right. He's talking to his disciples and starts telling them exactly what it means to be the chosen one, right? He talks about and gives definition to what it means to be the chosen one. Well, it has to do with the cross, which is also then, therefore, what it has to do with following him. That to be the chosen one, to be the Son, to be the chosen one, the Son of Man and the Son of God, is to be killed and on the third day raised from the dead. Oh, by the way, to follow that one means that you too have to be killed, so to speak, give up your own life and be raised from the dead. So you got to take up your own cross. So all this kind of flows, if you will. Lucas, I hope you guys see how just one story flows into the next. I mean, Luke is such a good. I need some coffee. You're right, Katie. I had coffee in it this morning. I was drinking coffee in the Ember this morning. I should take a picture so I could prove it. But yeah, I was drinking my cup of Joe in the morning. So this all just smoothly moves. And so we shouldn't be surprised then when this whole transfiguration story has another real smooth transition point. The next story that moves, we get this whole thing about, the climax statement of "This is my son, my chosen one," and the dynamic, interaction with the Father. That the Father is not just simply passive in this moment, but he's revealing, speaking, he's moving. He's not just like just a thought, if you will, but he's actually present. And this brings up even strong images of when burning bush with Moses, which is obviously akin to when he speaks to Moses, and Elijah when he whispers to Elijah up on the mountains. So anyways, you get this whole son chosen identity thing, and then you immediately move into a story of demon possession. Bum, bum, bum. All right, so you get this big climactic moment followed by the next day, after they had come down the mountain. That is to say, Jesus, his disciples, both the little group that he took, but what's also suggested is that, he probably had some of the other guys hanging around the lower part of the mountain. But the next day, after they came down the mountain, a large crowd met Jesus. Now, we've seen large crowds before, and every time we've seen a large crowd, something miraculous has usually happened. Large crowds have chased him up to this point. Remember how they chased him across and around a lake? He's done the Sermon on the Plain where a large crowd met with him. And specifically, we've seen Jesus heal with large crowds. We've seen, going all the way back. You have to go back to the earlier chapters. But if you go back to those earlier chapters, you'll find that Jesus performs miracles, and specifically he does a healing of demon possession with people. Large crowds are common by this point in time now in Luke's story. And so none of this surprises us, but it should build a sense of anticipation. He's come down the mountain, right, after they came down the mountain. And yes, this is a segue, but also recognize this is more than just simply a segue. This is also like a descending. This is a incarnational moment. This is God is not far away up on some faraway mountain. God is not up in the heavens. God is here among us, among the crowd, right? God is not it's not like you have to go up the mountain to find God. God is coming down the mountain to the people. So there's a really strong incarnational undertone to this, which is very Luke. If you think back to Luke's birth story, Luke's big on the birth story as an example for you of incarnational birth story. So after they came down the mountain, that is to say, after God has come among the people, you see all these people hanging out with Jesus. Now, one of the people in the crowd has an issue. Not surprising. This was something to be normalized. A lot of people brought the sick to him, the demon possessed to him, and he heals them, things like that. So we even had, if you remember, there's this woman, the woman who gets healed, the woman who's bleeding, and she's just randomly in the crowd, and she reaches out and she touches Jesus's cloak, and she gets healed. So same kind of vibe here, if you will, where this dude just calls out to him. There's this random guy in the crowd that Luke zeroes in on. Just like he zeroed in on the woman, now he's zeroing in on this man in the crowd who calls out, "Teacher." Teacher's an interesting thing because we've seen a couple different titles for Jesus. Normally what I would see here in the word use of teacher would be that it would be like a skeptic. A lot of the skeptics have been using the word teacher, like the Pharisees, Sadducees, and lawmakers, like the students of the law, law experts in the law. They've been using the term teacher a lot in Luke up until now. But here you get just this random guy. So there seems to be a connection point, though. He's got the guts. I mean, talk about a couple different words come to mind, but gutsy is one of them. You know, this dude's gutsy, and he just shouts out, he must be shouting at the top of his lungs, "Teacher!" and trying to get Jesus' attention. Clearly, everybody else wants Jesus' attention as well. But at the top of the lungs, it's this big, theatrical moment again in Luke. We've seen this a couple times where Luke has these really theatrical experiences. "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son." Oh, my only child. Oh. All right, so this guy is... The reason this is such a clean segue is because this is my son, my chosen one. I beg you to look at my son, my only child. There's a sense of a father and a son up here, in the story that just happened. And then immediately you get a father-son dynamic going on right below. So it goes from a father-son story into another father-son story. The difference is, difference. A nuance is that obviously you've got a divine father-son thing going on here. This father-son issue is rather significant. The son in this case is silent the whole time, utterly dependent on his dad for everything. Which you can definitely pick up and see as being echoed with Jesus and the Father. But, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son, my only child. An evil spirit keeps seizing him, making him scream. It throws him into convulsions so that he foams at the mouth. It batters him and hardly ever leaves him alone. I begged your disciples to cast out the spirit, but they couldn't do it." Ooh, this is loaded with all sorts of stuff, guys. Yep, 137 degrees. Yep, definitely. Ember, not a sponsor, but so far so good. Look at this. See, look at this. You can even... This is so cool. I can do green tea, black tea, coffee, latte, cappuccino. There's timers on here. There's even recipes. Holy cow. All right, so now we get into this whole evil spirit demon thing going on here, right? There's this kid. We don't know his age, but there seems to be a suggestion that obviously he's the... let's see if we get the Greek here. Hot cocoa? Oh, I gotta look. I don't know. I'm not sure, Katie. I'm looking right now. I'm looking. I'm observing. Oh, I have reached the maximum number of presets. Oh, so I'd have to go in and get rid of... Oh, wait, no, I can. Oh, only for you, Katie. I'm going to delete the latte because let's be honest, how often do I do a latte? Oh, and then you can do a manual one. Hot cocoa. How hot do you drink hot cocoa at? What's the temperature you all drink hot cocoa at? How hot is appropriate for hot chocolate? Coffee's 134 on this. Green tea's 137. What's appropriate? Somebody do research for me. Tell me how hot I should drink my cocoa at, and I will save it. Katie, you on it? Look it up. Tell me. So, microwave 2 minutes. Whatever that is. That's good. Okay. Well, so there you go. Get a little thermometer. Microwave it for 2 minutes. Stick a little thermometer. No, that's way too much work. You're right. This is a Google moment. Anyways, okay, I'm off subject here. We get this demon thing going on here, and we get this son. It's a child. We don't get an age. I'm gonna look up the word. I'm pretty sure it's technoi, or is it something different? Technoi just means like kid. No. Okay, so it's definitely son, and then this is the inference. Adjective only. Okay, so so you don't even get child. Child is to be understood. 160 and 185? Wow. I feel like that's really warm. My coffee's set at 135. 134 or something like that. 160, 185. Wow. You guys like it hot. 136 is an ideal temperature. All right, I'm going with that. So, I'm going to put it in so I don't forget. 136. Save. Hot cocoa. It's in. Nice. All right, so what I want you to see is a couple things here. One, notice the disciples have tried to cast out the spirit but have failed. The disciples have done, they've already been sent out. If you guys remember, we've already had the sending out where the disciples go out in Jesus' name. Don't carry any rod or staff or any of that sort of stuff with you, but go out and do miracles, spread the word, do all that sort of stuff, and they come back. And so they've got experience, so to speak, with the supernatural casting out of demons, that sort of stuff. So, but they can't do it. There seems to be a sticking point here. So as much as this story is about a miraculous healing, as much as this story is about a father and son, as much as this story is about demon possession and the rescue from a demon, you notice that so there's an evil spirit, but the evil spirit has physical realities attached to it. Okay, so in this case, the spirit is tormenting, inhabiting, causing issues that manifests itself in physical ways, seizing him, making him scream, throwing him into convulsions so that he foams at the mouth. A lot of speculations, a lot of scholars try to wander around in here and try to figure out and get into details here. But whatever it is, the evil spirit is having such an effect on the boy that he can't control his own body. He can't control his reactions, etc., etc. So it's not surprising Dad wants Jesus to intervene. Dad probably traveled with the boy in order to find Jesus because Jesus' reputation has preceded him by now. Notice also the position of innocence and victim, that the evil spirit is tormenting the boy, and the boy himself is a victim. It batters him and hardly ever leaves him alone. That is to say that the dad is doing what the dad can do to leverage his own situation as best he can, and calling upon God, calling upon Jesus to interact. The child, the son, he doesn't say a word in the story. He doesn't do anything. He's completely passive in our story. Just this little pericope is the fancy word. This story also appears in Mark, by the way. Mark has a much bigger, much more robust telling of this story. Luke synthesizes this story down, actually. Jesus responds to the man by saying, it's interesting, "You faithless and corrupt people, how long must I put up with you? Be with you and put up with you?" And then he said to the man, "Bring your son here." So this can look confusing at first because you're like, what? No, what? Jesus, what are you talking about? But Jesus says, you faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you and put up with you? What is happening here is a inverse movement related to the disciples. You faithless and corrupt people, including the disciples, including all of humanity, including those that are following him, and even his close disciples. Jesus is bemoaning the fact that we don't get it, right? And the same way that up here at the Transfiguration, Peter doesn't seem to get it, right? Peter does not seem to understand. He just blurts something out. He just doesn't get it. And even when you get up before to the previous teaching, they don't even understand, right? This is to show up here. Yeah, up here. Who do people say that I am? You are the Messiah, the Messiah sent from God. Peter is right in saying this, but he doesn't understand the significance of what he's saying. That's why Jesus goes on to elaborate and say, yeah, I am the Messiah, but I'm not the kind of Messiah that you think. I'm not the kind of Messiah that you're expecting. When you say I'm the Messiah, you don't even know what you're saying, Peter. It's about death and resurrection, buddy. So he doesn't even really grasp what's going on here. This is kind of like the disciples. By the time you get to our story of today related to the demons, you get a perception of seeing how Jesus is increasingly frustrated with the small-mindedness of and little faith of corrupt humanity. And he's just bemoaning the fact that even his disciples can't cast the spirit out. They don't get it. They're not able to do and believe and be, which is precisely why he came. That's part of the irony here, is that he came. And that Jesus himself, how long must I be with you? The answer is, of course, well, it's kind of ironic because he's going to the cross. So he's saying, I'm eventually, bear in mind to the disciples, the eventual movement of humanity is rejecting Jesus, killing Jesus, and even his disciples abandon Jesus, right? So to show how little they understand of what God is doing and what Jesus is up to, we see that the disciples, humanity is faithless and corrupt, and therefore dependent upon Jesus to save it. Humanity needs Jesus to save. We can't do it ourselves, okay? So, still, Jesus acts in grace. So despite how little we understand, and embrace of the gospel and the goodness, Jesus still chooses to act in grace. Bring your son here, he says, right? As the boy comes forward, the demon knocked him to the ground, threw him into a violent convulsion. So the demon knows that his whoop, 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 alarm bells are going off. The Son of God is here. Not good, not good, not good. The demon's all messed up and freaking out. And we've seen this before. But we've also seen up until now demons calling out and say, I know who you are, that whole kind of thing. You're Jesus, the Son of God. And we've seen demons try to put up a fight. We don't even get that here. This story, in proximity to the Transfiguration, this, as much as humanity and the disciples are kind of going, Jesus is going, whoop. He seems to be exhibiting and displaying his power, his glory, and his authority. And we feel that here by how little the demon can do in response to his presence. The demon tries to fight, but the only fight he can put up is to try to mess with the little boy. So, yeah, we could use some of that. Amen, Joe. Hey-oh, isn't that the truth? So this time, the demon can't even challenge Jesus or call him to the carpet or try to do anything. He just, he tries to get the boy, but Jesus rebukes the evil spirit and he heals the boy. Boom, done. Like, as far as Luke is concerned, this is like open closed case. Jesus shows up, rips the demon out of this kid, and it's over. This demon has nowhere to go, nothing to do. We don't get the whole cast me into the pigs thing. We don't get any of that. It is quite simply dominant Jesus in this moment. And again, using and leveraging his power, his majesty, which was just recently revealed, for the well-being of people. He gives the boy back to his father. So Jesus is choosing to leverage his character, his power, and his authority for the sake and the well-being of humanity. That's the irony. Later on, we get. I'm pretty sure it's in Luke. It's the whole idea of I lay my life down. And I've got the authority to pick it up again. That's out of John, but same concept of I've got the authority to cast out demons. How do I choose to exercise this authority? And the answer is for the well-being of people, despite the fact that people themselves are so often part of the problem. This is why you hear me on Sunday always tell you guys over and over and over again, we are both victims and perpetrators. Here's a great example of that where, this kid is a victim, but he's also a perpetrator by virtue of his original sin, by virtue of the life that this boy leads. So we both participate in the brokenness of this world as well as suffer from it. And so it takes a God, it takes Jesus to show up and rip it out of us. And then he graciously gives the boy back to his father. And notice the response too. Up until now, people have been like, who is this Jesus? Who is this man? They always ask the big question, who is he that does these miracles and wonders? Remember when he walked on water and then he heals, it does a demon possession one. Who is this that commands so? In this case, not anymore. The absolute power and authority of Jesus is not questioned. His identity is not questioned. It happens too close, hot on the heels of the Transfiguration. Nope. Instead, it's just awe, wonder, amazement. Awe gripped the people as they saw the majestic display of God's power. So, here you have Luke inserting a small and yet meaningful story hot on the heels of the Transfiguration. A story that affirms everything that just happened in the Transfiguration is being leveraged for the sake of the well-being of humanity, this corrupt and faithless humanity. God is going to leverage his glory and his goodness for the sake of the sinner, for the sake of the broken. And so he's going to take his majesty, his power, and do good with it. Now, again, man, it's so beautifully written, guys. I'm not an author. I'm not a writer. I studied a lot of English in college. I was a double major English religion and stuff. And this is so well written. It's mind blowing because as soon as you get this moment of this example of wielding his authority for the well-being of others, you immediately find him predicting his death. So the moment you see and you get this sense of majesty, power, awe, wonder, Jesus' demand, you get sacrifice. You get the cross. You get tempering his majesty with the ugliness of self-sacrifice and the ugliness of humanity. He's going to subject, even though he is all-powerful and can rip demons out of people, he's going to subject himself to the violence and the hate of a faithless, corrupt humanity who will beat him, strip him, spit on him, and then crucify him. Dang! You know what I mean? Wow. Yeesh. While everyone was marveling at everything he was doing, Jesus, as everybody's in awe, Jesus says to his disciples, listen to me and remember what I say. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of his enemies. Wow. So the moment he does this, incredible healing, it's immediately followed by, I guess, I won't say a downer moment, but it's like a recalibration once again. Just like we got before, you are the Son of God. You are the Messiah, the Son of God. Yeah, but this is what it means to be the Son of God. The Son of Man must suffer terrible things. He'll be rejected by the elders, leading priests, the teachers of the religious law. He will be killed. On the third day, he will be raised from the dead. By the way, if any of you wants to follow me, same thing's going to happen to you. You're going to have to take up your cross, right? So, right on the hot on the heels of this huge pronouncement, you get the exact kind of same echoing here. It's a pattern. It's an intentional pattern. This is my son, the chosen one. And then you get this father-son kind of story slipped in about power and wonder and awe, followed by, listen to me, remember what I say. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed in the hands of his enemy. Also note, listen to me. Oops, oh no, I clicked the wrong button. Nope, didn't want that. Oh, it's going to like freeze up my computer. Ooh, no, okay. Listen to me is the exact same phrase that we also saw up above in the Transfiguration with the Father's voice, that the Father himself says, this is my Son, the chosen one. Listen to him. So stop trying to make Jesus into the Messiah that you want him to be, and listen to what Jesus says the Messiah is, right? That's what is part of what God is saying here, is stop making Jesus into the kind of Messiah that you want him to be, and listen to the kind of the Messiah that he's telling you that he is, which is exactly what happened up here. I'm this kind of Messiah. So now you get Jesus following through saying, listen to me. I'm not the kind of God and Messiah that you think or perhaps even want, but I am the one that you need. So listen to me. Remember what I say. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of his enemies. Now he's saying this to his disciples, right? He's saying this to his disciples. 12 disciples, close disciples. I don't know. Jesus had a bunch of disciples. Bear in mind, obviously we use the term the 12 disciples as being kind of his closest cadre. Clouds, mist, supreme green tea tonight. Oh, that's good. So we assume, though, that these are kind of, at least the 12 disciples, maybe a couple others that are close with him, and in a significant way. The disciples, and we get this sense with the 12 disciples regarding their expectations of what Jesus will be and who Jesus is going to be. And, of course, once again, you find it beautifully laid out in anticipation for us, that when Jesus is talking about his impending death, the Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of his enemies. This is not what they are expecting. This is not what they're thinking about. In fact, the Bible goes he's blunt. They didn't know what he meant. Like, they don't get it. And, at this point in time, I'll be honest, I don't know that I blame them, so to speak. I know Jesus is being blunt and like saying, hey, I'm going to die. I'm going to be betrayed. It's going to be bad. If I'm one of the disciples, I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Raised from the dead? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Is he telling one of them parables again? Like, what's he talking about? I always have a soft spot for the disciples being hard-headed and somewhat ignorant, because I feel like it's a great reflection on myself, and perhaps you can empathize as well, that, of course they don't know what he meant. It's hard for us to understand the cross. We have the benefit. You and I have the benefit of the full story. Like, do you ever think about that? We actually know the ending. Like, the ending. We even know the ending of the ultimate ending. We don't just simply know the ending of this story. We know the ultimate ending of the whole story. The disciples at this point in time don't. They're just operating out of trust and faith that okay, Jesus, whatever. Yeah, hindsight is 20/20. You're exactly right, Katie. Like, this would have been a lot easier, which is part of the reason why you actually get a lot of theologians. You'll find this trickling in to the Gospels at various points where Jesus will say something and he'll say, remember what I say. And then later on, the author will one of the gospel writers will actually not only say this or write this, but then they'll also include like, and they remembered later. They understood at a later point in time. They looked back and realized and remembered what he had said. The gospel writers do that. You're exactly right. Hindsight's 2020. So its significance was hidden from them. They couldn't understand it, and they were afraid to ask him about it. This is an interesting statement. It's not what we would necessarily expect. You always get Jesus as like approachable, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's me and my personal projection. I would say is that Jesus is perhaps, I would hope for the disciples, an approachable character. And yet at the same time on this particular topic, it seems to be rather loaded. It seems to be rather significant. It seems to be rather intense to the point where nobody going to come up and be like, Jesus, what you talking, fool? What are you talking about? You know, they don't get it. They don't understand. And I don't blame them for it. And they're too nervous. I would be too. What are you supposed to say? Jesus, can you go over the death thing again with me? It just ain't like adding up for me. Like, I get where they're coming from in that regard. And the fact that they're just too nervous to ask about it. Now, this, of course, is interesting because it folds into the next little tidbit. Then the disciples began arguing about which of them was the greatest. And the idea here is, you know, we get this with, like, for example, the Sons of Thunder argue. They get so bold. They're like, hey, Jesus, when you become king and everything, which one of us can sit at your right? And which one of us can sit at your left? Which one of us can rule and do, you know, which one of us is going to be prime minister and which one of us is going to be minister of the interior? Are you cool? Can you tell us who's going to be who on this whole thing? Like, literally, that's one of the conversations that happens in the Bible. It's somewhat hysterical. Like, it's almost comical. But again, it's the disciples. Like, you know, they're thinking that a revolution's at hand. They're thinking, time to throw off Rome and get rid of the empire and establish the Jewish nation state again. All this makes sense, particularly since one of them was a zealot. I mean, literally, one of the guys that's hanging out with Jesus is anti-Rome, pro-revolution. Like, he's dedicated his life to revolution. And then Jesus shows up and he's like, yeah, come follow me. Don't, like, leave that whole thing behind and come follow me. Mind-blowing. I can't believe that this thing maintains its temperature. Uh-oh. I've been using it all day. Can you guys see? I got a red light. Red light means that it's low battery. I read that. Let's see. Oh, it's dropped to 125. I wondered. That's so funny. I can taste the difference. Time to recharge your mug. It says, it's telling me. It's speaking to me. Time to recharge your mug. Oh, 124. It's dropping. Temperature dropping. Plummeting. Oh, man. What a fun thing. This is great. I can have kicks and giggles with this. 1 hour battery. Yeah, probably something like that. That's probably exactly right. They assume that someone's not going to be so loquacious that they can't drink their 8 ounces of tea in the time that it takes to you know, in an hour. You would assume that I'm done in an hour, but so I can't really hold that against it. It's noticeably colder. Guys, I'm not making that up. It's noticeably colder because this thing's awesome. I can't believe it kept it. I can taste the difference. It was at 137 for so long. That is hilarious. Still good. All right. So you get this whole thing about them arguing who's going to be the greatest, who's going to be the ruler, who's going to be, you know, they kind of have this idea. The disciples are thinking about being the top dogs, being his council, his little inner, you know, the great council. They got the inroads to Jesus, who's going to be king kind of thing going on, right? And of course, that's because they don't understand what kind of Messiah he is. Their assumption of what it looks like to be the Messiah is to be that earthly ruler. And so as they're kind of thinking and arguing and debating, arguing. Hey, is this not hilarious? Come on, tell me you're laughing at home wherever you are. You're at least give me a giggle on this, because the disciples of the Lord God Almighty are arguing. They're in heated debate about which of them was the greatest. Oh, we got to look the greatest up. Let's get the word choice here. We got to look this up. This is just like, oh my gosh. I love the Bible, guys. Don't you? I mean, come on. Who could?
Megas.
Oh, that's an interesting word. Okay. I'm reading, sorry. Large, great in relation to objects. That's good, Susan. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. That's close. I'll take that as a giggle emoji. That's great. You guys did a great job on Sunday, by the way, Susan and Greg. Thanks for serving and loving your church body. You wonder, Katie, right? At least there weren't punches thrown. Like, I don't know. I kind of wonder. I just, so I'm just looking up some of the Greek, and yeah, I mean, this is like, you got to picture them hanging out and thinking about and wondering about, not thinking, wondering, arguing, like heated debate on this. The Greek here is taking me into like larger, greater, better, bigger, all these sort of things, usually in regards to space. Doesn't mean like who's the, physically largest in this regard, but they're arguing about who's the best. Like, this is hilarious, especially since they are disciples of Jesus. I mean, come on, Jesus, who's the best? Are you nuts? This is just, no wonder earlier on he's like, you faithless and corrupt people. No wonder the disciples had issues regarding the demon. It shows their incapacity, right? Oh, man. Yeah, humans are so funny. Reminds me of so many committees. Oh, man. So true, Joe. Like, give me a break. Are you guys kidding me? This is what they're debating. And this is coming on the heels, of course, of everything that's happened recently, is that their concept of what Jesus is going to be, who Jesus is so off the mark. And of course, they're making, this is what we do too, though, right? We try to make Jesus into the Jesus we want Jesus to be. We make him into the Messiah that we want him to be instead of the Messiah that he actually is, which is precisely why God himself is speaking out of clouds saying, be quiet and let Jesus tell you exactly what it means to be Messiah. It means the cross. It means death and resurrection. That's what it means. Listen to him. Stop arguing among each other about who's going to be the prime minister, and instead listen to Jesus. Oh, just baffling. And so true. It's so relatable, ain't it? It's just so accurate. Unsurprisingly, Jesus knew their thoughts, and so he does the most clever. I mean, this is stinking clever. He knows their thoughts, so he brings a little child to his side. Little child. And I love this because this becomes one of those things where this is what goes in stained glass. And this is what goes on murals. And this is what goes on, I'm talking about, like, this is right alongside the let the little children come to me kind of moments, right? Anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me. And anyone who welcomes me also welcomes my Father who sent me. Whoever is the least among you is the greatest. stinking awesome. Like, this is a mic drop moment, guys. He gets these adult men. I should do this. Men are arguing about who's going to be the greatest. Jesus sees this, and he uses a child as a teaching lesson and shows how, in this situation, the child is the best and greatest agent. The child is paralleled to himself, right? Anyone who welcomes me welcomes my Father. Anyone who welcomes a child. So the parallel is that Jesus is to a child, right? As the Father is to Jesus. So it's this, whoever welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes my Father who sent me. So it's this beautiful, beautiful moment where you get to see how, in this situation, the one who is most in sync with Jesus and more perfectly acts as his agent for fostering, cultivating, teaching, and enhancing the kingdom of God on earth is a child surrounded by a bunch of men arguing. This is just awesome. Isn't this awesome? I think it's just great. It's just so good. It's so profound if you think about it, that it strips away. I mean, talk about humility and what it means to, you hear things like faith like a child and all this sort of stuff. Jesus is saying more here that, excuse me. Saw that one coming. Ooh, felt it coming. This is more than just like Jesus sitting down and saying, you need to you need to be like the little children. This is way more profound than that. This is paralleling the agency and the power of a child in our world as to that of Jesus. I mean, that's mind-blowing. Joe. We all grow up. What is going on? Why the tendency toward increased separation as people mature? The reality of sin is just as present in brokenness, is just as present in children as it is in adults. The difference is that adults get really good at making sin complicated and brokenness complicated, as well as making faith complicated. The older you get, the more complicated you become. Complicated is not necessarily bad, but it can be. In and of itself, it's not intrinsically bad, but it can cause problems. And that's what happens in humanity, is it causes problems. As we become complicated, more often than not, it causes problems. Children, they're straight shooters usually. They tell you what they're thinking. They tell you what's up. And the older they get, the more conniving we get, the more sneaky we get. I see this in my kids already. My kids are 0, 3, and 5. You know what my 5-year-old figured out the other day? A new level of manipulation related to my 3-year-old. She told me that for her birthday, which is like a year away, it's in June. My 5-year-old told me she wanted a specific set of figurines, play toys. And it's the set that her 3-year-old sister wants. It's figurines of my 3-year-old's favorite movie. And that's because the 3-year-old got for her birthday figurines that my 5-year-old wants. So my 5-year-old has figured out that should she be able to ascertain figures that her sister wants, she will have leverage to get the figure she wants, which her younger sister owns. Oh, man. It happens so early, guys. Dang. Like, oh my gosh. I know. Katie, can you believe that? Like, she's 5 and she figured that out. And it was like this we were having a moment. It was on vacation where we were canoeing, and I love canoeing. And I'm like, oh man, this has been a dream of mine. Canoeing with my offspring on a beautiful, pleasant evening. Here I am with my beautiful daughter. It is one of her, she's been canoeing a handful of times, and we're having this special father-daughter bonding moment. And she turns to me in this moment and says, I would like these figures for my birthday. And I ask her, why, child, do you want these figures? And she says to me, I forget her exact wording, but it was basically, because those are the figures my sister wants. And I really want the ones that she has. Oh, man. Sin starts young, baby. Sin starts young. But now if you go up to ask my 3-year-old, she'd tell you straight, no. She would just whack you. She'd just punch you. She'd probably bite you is actually what she would do, which is also its own problem in its own right. But the principle stands. She's at least a little bit more direct, right? So yes, Joe, we get more clever at our ability to sin as we get older. We get more clever in our ability to make things messy. But the irony is, of course, too, that we also, because of our cleverness, so to speak, we can also find ways and be clever on how to better serve others. We get better control, hopefully, theoretically. We grow in our self-awareness so that we realize, gosh, this is me just being manipulative. I should probably just ask Dad for figures of my own, another set of figures of the ones that I want, right? I mean, that would be... Anyways, all right. You guys get it. You guys get it. The point is that there is beauty in a child because of the simplicity and the honesty that comes with a child. And this is one of the reasons why Jesus holds them up time and time again over and against adults who so often get sidetracked on passive aggressiveness or, violence or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just awesome. A bunch of grown adult men arguing about who is going to be prime minister. And then Jesus grabs a child and is like, whoever is the least among you is the greatest. That's just awesome. Jesus is so good. He's so good to us. Can you imagine all the different things he could have said here? Like, do you imagine all the things he could have done or said? He does indeed know exactly the right thing to say, does he not? He knows the right thing to say. Well, all right. That was a fun night, don't you think? Oh, good stuff. Up through 48. Up through 48. Not too shabby. Pretty great. Hey, thanks for hanging out, guys. As always, thanks for being part of the online community. Being part of our community and having fun together. Hanging out Tuesday nights. Gotta love it. Super good. We'll be back on. Should be back on next week, I believe. I don't think I have any conflicts that would cause me not to be on. Just bringing up my calendar on the side. But I should be on again next week. Hanging out and being in our community together. So come be a part of it. Come hang out Tuesday night, 7:30. Rocking and rolling in Luke. And bring somebody, tag somebody. Send this to somebody. It's a great way to extend and be the church that we feel like God's asked us to be, a church for those who aren't here yet. This is a great way to help make inroads into the lives of others regarding the scriptures and Jesus Christ. And of course, you guys know the best way is to allow brothers and sisters. Theophany! 10 points for Trudy. Theophany. That is literally like Theology 101, and I could not for the life of me. Thank you, Trudy. Theophany. Theo is God, and it's like Epiphany, Theophany, where God reveals himself. Thank you, Trudy. That was going to drive me nuts all night. I cannot believe it. Thank you. Hey, anyways, come join us Sunday mornings, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10:30, and super excited. Vicar Nathan is preaching it, bringing it home with the top 10 most Googled Psalms is Vicar Nathan. Come and check it out. Come be a part of it. It's going to be great. We also got an adult baptism this week, which is wonderful. Very excited to welcome a new sister into the family officially and celebrate what God's doing in her life. So come be a part of it. 10:30 is the baptism, but 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 10:30 are going to be services. Thank you, John Harrell. Thank you. Good sir. As always, thanks everybody for hanging out and being part of it. For Trudy, thank you. Susan, thanks for hanging out, being here. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, all of you. If I missed you, I didn't see you guys post in the comments. So anyways, thanks for being a part of it, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Go lift some lives, elevate Christ. Be a church for those who aren't here yet. We'll see you guys all next week and hopefully on Sunday as well. God bless, guys.